live to Facebook. Okay. And we are live with Dr. Patricio Molina. Dr. Molina is a Chilean-born pianist and composer. He's appeared in a wide range of venues around the world, including the New York's Carnegie Hall, Borden Auditorium at the Manhattan School of Music, New Jersey Performing Arts Center, Teatro Municipal of Chile, Odeon Amphitheater in Jordan, and several television appearances. His compositions embrace a wide variety of works, from a set of easy piano pieces for beginners to a fully orchestrated 3-act ballet entitled, you'll have to help me with this one, Patricio. Chiloe?
Got it.
Okay. And a fully orchestrated 3-act opera entitled La Sargento de la Concepción.
That's pretty good. Yeah, La Sargento.
Other original works by Patricio include choral and chamber music, stories and poetry, and his Syrian-Chilean heritage often serve as inspiration. Today, Dr. Molina enjoys the position of music director at St. Thomas the Apostle in Bloomfield, New Jersey, where he writes new music for children and adult choirs, plays the organ for weekend masses, and organizes concerts and special events. He also serves as the director of the Kathy and Mark Greer Conservatory at the New York School of the Arts, where he teaches courses in music history, composition, and gives private lessons in his piano studio. Patricio is an adjunct professor at Passaic County Community College, and when not composing, concertizing, or teaching, he engages in outreach endeavors that bring music to young people. He is the co-founder and president of Notes for Growth, which is a nonprofit foundation that gives musical instruments to underprivileged children. Patricio, thank you for being with us today. Welcome, and take it away.
Well, thank you. So, right before this went live, I was talking to Anna, and Anna is an amazing performer, great pianist. And I said that I would be very successful if we end this talk with Anna becoming the greatest next composer. So, and she doesn't seem very convinced, but let's see. You know, I think there's a big benefit to being a performer if you want to be a composer, and there's a lot of studies there that I'm going to share some scientific data, and to show you why doing that transition from performer to composer is something that you could do actually. And I'm going to show you some of the steps. I think the first part is going to be more of the intellectual part of the talk. And the second part, I'm going to do a little bit of some practical things. I'm going to go to the piano just to show you some things. So let's begin. So when I grew up in Chile, I remember, walking through the parks, and I don't know, in Central Park and other places in New York, you see this too. But there's this magical group of people that play chess, and they're pretty good. I mean, I don't know if you walk through those areas, but between a 2-minute walk, they just do like 100 moves, and it's all like almost automatic. And they have sometimes the timers. These chess masters are just extraordinary, right? They really know that board like nobody else. And there is something about being a composer and a chess master that is very similar, okay? And that is that chess masters away from their chess, they have regular memories. They have regular, abilities. So there's nothing special except for that chess thing, the chess thing. So, and there's something that makes them very, there's something that makes them special, obviously, because being a chess master and being able to see 10 moves ahead, from it takes something very special. And that is, that they get this special ability through one thing. And that one thing is something that composers have in common with them too. And that is experience. Okay, so the more you do something, the more you know what are the tension of the board, for example. So they look at the board, something that I cannot do, but they look at the board and they see, all the pieces, and immediately they can see the tension of the board. And the reason is because of the experience. They have seen these moves. They have seen it so many times that they can very quickly see what's going on in there. Composers are very much like that. In a way, we look at an idea that comes, to us, either in the shower or whatever, an idea that comes. And when we write it down, we're able to see the tension abilities, or all the different possibilities from this, from that idea, right? Or from the idea that we got. And that is because of the experience. Now, that experience is done through a set of context. There's the harmonies give us an idea of what is the tension, where is it going to go, what are the different possibilities of where the idea can go. Just like the chess master can see the moves and knows exactly where the next moves for the chess. Now, performers, and this is why I think that performers have a very special ability to become composers. Performers have this experience. Performers are learning all of these different types of music, sight reading, performing, memorizing it, and by doing that, performers are creating a huge amount of context in their memory. And that amount of context in the memory is preparing them, if they wish to become a composer. It's just, it's not simple, but it's just that. It's just the context. How many maps, how many possibilities, and put all those possibilities into a map. And that's what it is. That's what composing is. So again, performers have that special ability. Knowing different styles and memorizing all these different composers and music, you get to really understand, what are the different possibilities that work here. So I'm going to talk about what, knowing, as performers, knowing what those maps, what those possibilities are, will help. So that when we're learning as performers, we're learning new music. If we look at it in a certain way, and that's what we're going to talk about today. If we look at the music in a certain way, we'll be able to learn about it. We're going to learn about the map, the meaning of it, and how to put it together for composition. So, and how to internalize this music as a composer. So, for example, it's not just learning a lot of music as performers. So that's why not all the performers become composers. Is how you look at the music and transform that knowledge into composition. So, and I'll give you an example of this. When I go to work in the morning, I have people outside that I always see running in the morning. And it's always the same people running. And I'm pretty sure that, I've seen them do the same thing for years. I'm pretty sure that they have close to those 10,000 hours of running that is needed to become a master, right? According to research. So, but if we put one of those runners in a marathon in the Olympics, I bet that they will not win, even though they have those 10,000 hours of practice, right? And it's because it takes a certain amount of this practice, right? It's a specific type of practice. It's not just 10,000 hours. It's a specific type of practice. So as performers, if we take the music that we're learning, and we learn it in a specific way, we can use that knowledge and transform it into composition. Okay, so let's start with the first thing. First things is you know, knowing what the purpose of music is. Okay, so as a performer and obviously as a composer, what is the purpose of a performance? And in a way, in my opinion, I think that that the purpose of music is persuading people into the feelings of the music, right? You persuade people to feel the emotional character of the music, and there are different ways to persuade people in music doing this, right? And it's very similar to what speakers do with orally, right? And that is by combining three elements that were discovered or put together or categorized by Aristotle, and that is the logos, the ethos, and the pathos. Logos is the intellect, the ethos is the character or the virtuosity, as we're going to look, and pathos is the emotion. So if you combine those three characters, those three things in music, you have a better possibility to persuade people into the emotions of the music, of the character of the music. So as performers, and I'm going to keep going back to that, as always as performers, when we can see the music of Beethoven, Chopin in those terms, what are the intellectual aspects of this music? What are the expressive aspects? And what are the virtuosic aspects of this music? If we look at them this way, when we're learning the music, we're actually putting that experience, okay, into the context, into our memory that we can later use for composing. You know what? I might give you some examples of that actually. Yeah, let me go to the piano. I'm gonna go to the piano, and I'm gonna play some examples, some musical examples from Chopin, and we're gonna look at those elements. Okay, so the logos, the pathos, and the ethos in this music, and how then we're gonna look at how then we're gonna apply that for composing. Obviously, this is Chopin Etude Opus 25, number 1. And this is a section somewhere in the middle where it goes like this. Okay. So let's take these are only 4 measures. We're going to take those 4 measures, and the virtuosity of this passage is very, very obvious, right? It's there's a lot of dexterity required in this passage. So that's the obvious part. But let's take it out. Let's take out the virtuosity or the ethos, right? The ethos away from this passage, and see how it suffers. How, musically speaking, it becomes a little bit less persuasive, right? So let's try it. So it's pretty similar, same melody, right? Same harmonies, but the virtuosity is completely out, right? The ethos of this passage is out. And you can see how, persuasively speaking, it just loses a lot of its power. I'm gonna bring back the ethos, okay? So we can hear it again. Now, let's talk about the logos now. So logos is the intellect, right? The intellectual aspect of this passage. And there is a section here, right, where we have a contrapuntal addition, right? So we have the melody, and then we have a contrapuntal idea that comes later. Right? I'm gonna take away the logos here. I'm gonna take away the contrapuntal line just to see how it suffers again. So here. So we have the ethos, right? We have the virtuosity, but I took away some of the intellectual part. I'm gonna add again that line, the logos. We're gonna insert it again into this passage. So then it became again more persuasive. And then the last aspect, right? The last part would be the pathos, the emotion, right? So the emotion part of this section, let's say that is the melodic writing, right? The melody. So I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm just gonna have virtuosity, and that's it. It loses a little bit of the pathos, the emotion. Okay, but if we have a balance between the three, just like in a speech, right? If we have the balance between the logos, pathos, and ethos in the music, it becomes very persuasive. This is why these four measures are so persuasive here. All right. So the reason why I talked about these aspects is because as performers, if we look at the music as performers like that, and start analyzing it, not only just with the structure, or harmonically speaking, but in the persuasive ways, logos, pathos, and ethos, there's something that we're internalizing as performers into that context that I was talking to you, telling you at the beginning of this class, that chess masters have, right? We're internalizing music in a way that we can understand it in a way that can be persuasive, that could be that people can we can persuade the emotional context of the music. All right, so very okay. So that, I guess, that's like the main thing of my talk today, is that performers have a special ability to internalize those techniques, to internalize the context of music, and then using all those contexts, just memorizing everything that we have as performers there, all the possibilities. We can look at a piece of music and see where it can go immediately, right? Because of all the memorization, all the context that we have in there. All right, so I'm going to give you some practical exercises that that we can use for our own things as performers, or for our students. If you have students that want to explore the possibility of composing, this is something that you can share with them as well. So one of the exercises that I like to tell students of composition is to tell a story, And you can tell a story, you can tell a lot with a lot of constriction. You can tell, you can be very creative with very little, okay? So for example, if we pick 2 notes, just those 2 notes, and we decide to tell a story with those 2 notes. And the story is, I don't know, let's make up a story. That, we're, I don't know if you wanna tell me, if you wanna chat, and one of the panelists wanna tell a story, but let me think of a story here. There is 2 people falling in love, and let's say that there's some drama going on, and one of them, it's just a love that cannot happen. All right, let's tell that story with these 2 notes, right? So the loving part first, right? So the 2 people are falling in love, right? And then they fall in love together, right? And then it just cannot happen, right? So you can tell a lot with those 2 notes, right? There's a lot of storytelling that are with creativity, right? Now imagine if we add more notes to that storytelling context, right? If I add 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Now I have more possibilities, right? The context just opened up. My chessboard just became bigger, right? So now I have more possibilities to explore the composition here, the context, the possibilities of that storytelling. So for exercising, I like to start with even 1 note. Just tell a story with 1 note, and then slowly just like open up the possibilities until you are able to use everything at your disposal, even the inside of the piano, or or everything you want, but if you become very restricted at the beginning and explore that creativity, right, you'll notice that even at like 4-year-old kid that's just learning piano can compose, right? The creativity is there. Everybody is very creative, so it's just about what are the internalizing the context and exploring different possibilities. Now, there's another exercise I use with my students for harmony, and harmony is a little bit more complex because it takes more experience to be able to understand how the tension and release and chord progressions work, what kind of chord progressions are good. But you as performers, learning all of this music, you could internalize all of these chord progressions and make them your own, right? Making part of who you are as a composer. But what I do for students that are hesitant to explore the harmony, I just start with 4 notes. So I'm gonna start with G, a G major chord. Okay, so and I play 2 notes with the left hand. So this is left hand and right hand, and we could create a pattern, but I'm not gonna do that yet. A rhythmic pattern. But instead of doing that each time, I'm only allowed to change 1 note at a time. Okay, so here. I'm gonna change the alto. I'm gonna change the bass. I'm gonna change the soprano. I'm gonna change the tenor. Okay, so if you do that, you can have like more interesting rhythmic patterns if you want, but that's a way to also try to explore different. And if you like a harmonic, progression there, make sure you write it or record it, and that could be part of that new piece that you compose. And lastly, one of the things I like to do is take, pre-existing music and doing my own thing. Like even the Chopin, right? And I could do that and improvise something that is my own using the same gestures that I already practice as a performer. Okay. So to conclude, before we open this up for questions, to conclude this talk, just a couple of things to keep in mind, right? One is that performers, and I hope I made a good case for this, but performers do have a very special ability to become composers. Okay, performers have that special experience, and with the experience, we can create a context, and with the context, we can become composers. And we could use all of those, all of that experience, okay, all of the experience that we have to be able to persuade audiences, to the emotions through music. Okay, because at the end of the day, we have to keep the goal, the idea of what music is, right? Music is about persuading people to the emotions of the emotional context of the music. So if we keep that as performers, when we look at it and we compose, when we practice new music and when we compose, yeah, we're keeping, what is the saying, the eye on the ball, I guess, right? So anyways, let's open it up for any questions.
Anatolia has been monitoring the chat. Do you want to start there, Anatolia, with what people have commented so far? You're muted.
Can I actually, Patricio, please don't kill me. I will ask you a question. So how will you describe then your own style as a composer? I absolutely understand your logic, but you know what? If you will give me, for example, 2 notes, I, of course, will be able to compose something, but will it have some kind of real idea? And will I have your creativity? I really doubt that.
Well, maybe not at the beginning, but if you use, because you have a lot of, I mean, we just had a performance a couple of months ago, and you perform extraordinary music, and you have all of that internalized inside of you. So you can, maybe instead of using 2 notes, you can use 4 notes to try to express something similar to that. Now, yes, there is the creativity, right? But you're internalizing all of this as performer, so it's already inside of you. You just have to try.
I know your music pretty well, and I'm really happy that I know it. So how long it took for you to find your own voice? Because when I'm listening to your pieces, I hear that your own voice, that you're not, just internalizing everything that you knew before.
Well, I think we all, it's the experiences of the pieces that you perform and listen to. I have different experiences than you, internalized and memorized inside of me. And that will create different, contexts for music. So those same 2 notes, and if we create the same story with those same 2 notes, we're going to have different creativities depending on our experiences. Now, I might add a little bit of an Arabic feel to it. I might add a little bit of Chilean rhythm in there. And you might add some Russian stuff in there, because that's your fingerprint. That's who you are, But at the end of the day, you know, I think the voice, the composer's voice, is all of the experiences that we have put together. And as performers, we have a lot of experience.
No, that's true, absolutely. But like when even I admire just when you were even just playing with the notes with the harmonies. So if I will start trying doing that, I will get stuck because I will be thinking, oh my God, this is dominant seventh. Oh my God, this is diminished seventh. It needs to go there. It needs to go there. And my brain is really square in these kind of terms.
But you
So-
know what? Embrace that. That's fine. You know, why not? Give it a try. You know, like you might have a weird, you know, a dominant seven in a place that was not expected. You know, and if you like that, you know, why not? It's just part. It's just part of, you know. These are again, this exercise of the two notes and the harmony are just to get started. But then you use your own experiences to build up the piece from there.
No, for sure, that's amazing because honestly, I will try to use it with my private students, the younger ones. I think it's a great tool that you shared today with us to develop their imagination and appreciation of music, and also how you experiment even them articulation, how you explain to them articulation through this kind of characters and composition. It can really help them.
Yeah, and then you know, the other thing is once you have the music, right? It's never gonna be unless if you were like Bach or Mozart, you know. But it's never gonna be perfect at the first try. So then what I do, you know, is I look at the music and I see what is missing, and it's always gonna be something missing. Can I add logos? Can I add something more intellectual, like you know, a little bit more interesting harmonies, or counterpoint, or the form is just too obvious? Can I make it a little bit more intellectual? You know, you have all of that internalized inside of you, you know. So you just have to be able to see it, you know, the music, and see what can we add there. The other thing is, you know, is missing the emotional aspect. You know, can I add a melody that really speaks to people to be able to balance that? Or can I add a little bit more virtuosity? Because, you know, and I play with those three things until I hope it's balanced, you know? And maybe I'll play something at the end of here just to show you how, like, the thinking process, you know, how it came across to compose a new piece. And I see that Anatolia has her hand up, right?
I have a little comment first, which is also a question. I know that your students are pre-collegiate, most of them, right?
So my students are what? Sorry?
Are pre-college age.
Yes, yes.
Most of them. And I feel that, as Anna was discussing us getting square, but we get square because of the time we spent on those kind of canons and norms that we know as classical musicians. Have you noticed something different from the younger ones, though? In my opinion, they're a little bit more adventurous and spontaneous than we are as educated musicians. And they don't care where they put the 5/7. They don't even know that they should put it in an authentic cadence or in a deceptive cadence before the 6 or whatever. You can. I was thinking, are you using that creativity, imagination, spontaneity, and the lack of any restraints to teach them the rules? And if you are, or do you want those rules to limit them, or is it just as how do you, in other words, how can we teach them those rules without taking away that spontaneity and creativity and, you know, their ability to actually create new rules?
Well, I mean, I think the best way to learn and to learn the rules is by looking at the performer, at the music that they're learning, you know, the performances. So when you look at the harmony, okay, this is going from 1 to 5, this is first theme, second theme. They're internalizing all of that. That's part of their experience. And I think the reason to your first question, I think that the reason why they're more adventurous is because they don't compare themselves to you know, Rachmaninoff yet. So when we become a little bit older, we just like we you know, our music's not like mine enough, but they're more, you know, and we can't like when I was walking in Chile next to those chess masters, if I sat down and play with them, forget it, you know, like I cannot compare myself with them. It's just you know, I don't have the experiences. But if I played every day and I wanted to have those experiences and internalize them, I could have been there, you know, and it just takes time. But the point of this is that as performers, we are internalizing this music. So we're becoming that chess master without even noticing it. All you have to do is just do it.
Would you say that you observed your style, did you had a specific style right away, or did it grow as you began to compose? Like when you looked back, then suddenly you started to see certain elements and themes represented in the majority of them? Or did you know right away?
You know, it's no, it was not right away. But I think my style is very much tied to my piano. You know, just like Ravel. You know, Ravel was a great pianist, and he, you know, really composed most of his stuff on the piano. And there's a lot of composers that way, that they use their own instrument to be able to compose. Because on the piano, I have those gestures, you know, and there's some typical gestures as a composer that are there. Those are like my fingerprints. So yeah. So did they have, and my style is always changing, honestly. It's always changing because my experiences are always changing. You know, I started listening to a lot more Arabic music now, and that is changing the map, my map, you know, the context. So now, you know, I learned how to see music. You know, for my PhD thesis, I studied, and we're going to talk about that on Thursday, but I studied Arabic music, the theory of Arabic music. And maybe I'll leave that for Thursday, but you know, to talk about it more detail. But the way they look at music, the Arabs look at music is very different from Westerners. And there's some of that has influenced my latest music, actually, a little bit. So
Patricio, you shared with me the other day in our little interview that you have at your school, you guys are kind of got together trying to figure out new ways to include and involve kids from your community that were not exposed to classical music before, and by integrating repertoire that speaks to them. We've been discussing that a lot this week. You got them more interested and drawn into playing. Does that also work with composing? Are they some of the students? Are some of those students that come from different demographic, not Western, or maybe not the Western, like not Germanic or you know, Russian? Would it do they feel compelled to compose something, bringing into their own traditions, or do they, how what was your experience with the students that come from different cultural backgrounds?
yeah. So that's really good, because I think, you know, we spoke about you know, what it takes to become a composer. But if you don't want to become a composer, if you don't want to do it, then what's the point of all of this? You know, what is the point of this whole talk? So now you're talking about the motivation, and I think you know, I think that there's different things. I mean, everyone is different. We get all motivated by different things. But I found that many students, not all, but many students get motivated by their cultural heritage. So so introducing composers' music, folk music from that cultural heritage will motivate students to do this, to you know, to become composers. So yeah, you know, I have an Indian student, and he's just extraordinarily talented, and sometimes he tries to compose music, and he has, again, internalized a lot of music. He's a great performer too. But when he has, sometimes he tries to compose things in the style of Prokofiev. And I let him. Why not? It's part of the experience. But the best music is the music that when he embraces that Indian heritage, and it's just like nothing else. That's like his voice. And I encourage him to do that, to listen to more of that music and to embrace that, because that's his strength in a way. And he gets very motivated by that, by the way. So yeah, if you have students, but not all of them get encouraged by their cultural heritage for some reason. Some people get encouraged by composers, by people, sometimes by great heroes, like a heroic figure. So you have to just find what motivates a student, and if he's a personality, right? Just learn about that person and see, how that can motivate that the student to compose.
Patricio, did you have mentors, unexpected mentors through your path? Not just as a pianist, but as a young composer, that you could reflect on to the present of where you're today, and then how do you take that and internalize that as we look to the future, right? And we envision what we can do to the future. How would those things, your experiences, help some of us identify how we could potentially be that same type of mentor, and while we're exploring the future and what it will look like in the classical music?
So mentors, yeah, I mean, all my teachers have been very good. I've been very lucky, and I think that the best mentors are the ones that let me explore. Let me explore. I had a few mentors or teachers that would not let me compose. There's just not this. You're a performer. You're not a composer. And I got a few people actually tell me that you're not a composer. Your music is just not. That's not what you're a performer. So the best teachers are the ones that saw that I had this interest in composition and allowed it. Allow me to do it and embrace it and allow me to perform it in the end of the year concerts, while everyone was performing Chopin, I perform my own thing. And why not? Let the students do that. I think it's, in talking about the future, I think that's a good, I mean, make sure we have to make sure that it's good, right? And again, you can find, you can always test if the piece is ready for performance with the logos, pathos, and ethos. If it has that roundness, if it has the virtuosity, the passionate, the melody, and the intellectual part, then it passes, and you can put it into the performance. You don't want music that is not ready to be performed either. But I think if you pass with us, yeah, I think it's new. We're doing something new by going back to something that was old in a way, because a lot of the composers were performers. A lot of the greatest composers were performers. So we're by doing this again, we're just looking back in a way.
That's a wonderful concert, like good going forward by looking back.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I have to communicate to you a wonderful comment here and a question after that. Our Grace says that I love this. This Grace, it kind of takes the composers off the genius pedestal a bit and makes the idea of composing as craft rather than divine inspiration. Makes it much more accessible and less scary for performers, an important effort against classical music's obsession with hierarchy. So well said, Grace. And you can comment on that too, but let me also give you one of our questions. How would you guide some students, any student who hasn't developed their ear or their listening ability yet, the skill, to compose? It seems like some of my students, the attendee panelists, I don't know who it is, says it seems that some of my students who have great ears can naturally understand which sound is better.
All right, that's good. That's good, and I'm glad that's good. I'm very happy about that comment. If we can make the composition aspect, because as performers we can all do it. But anyways, for students beginning, I think the first step is to learn repertoire, other repertoire. I think that's because we're learning, they're learning, they're learning that, again, that experience, so just learning as much repertoire as possible. And you can incorporate some of the composition parts even at an early age, but I will focus mostly on learning new repertoire because that's probably the most valuable lesson for composing. But there's other things I like to play with younger kids. Is you have the whole piano, try to make a sound of the elephant. Try to make a sound of two people fighting. Or and just be creative, and they don't have to use it. You can use whatever they want, and that also exercises the creativity of the students, because that's important too. And not only exercises the creativity of the student, but I think encourage them to use all of the experiences that they're learning from the repertoire that they're learning, and be able to refine that creativity into something that is more refined. There's a question there, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Do you want to read it yourself?
Oh, sure. I was just gonna say, I just was posting that, yeah, to tag onto this, it came to my mind because I'm actually working with one of my just graduated high school students who's starting to teach. And she, we just had her lesson the other night, and she was asking me, like, what do I do? Like, so we were trying to talk through developing lesson plans for those early beginners, beginning students, but also beginning teachers. And I was just telling her, one of the things that I love to do with students is, like, before they're even reading on the piano, just getting them used to understanding the instrument and the register and the different timbres. I just, every week I give them a different assignment. This week, I want you to create a song about a thunderstorm, or
oh, cool.
This week I want you to create a song about your favorite day or your favorite animal or things like that. And they love it because they don't, some of them don't even know the names of the notes yet, and but they're just experimenting with the sounds. And then, I always observe with them, like, which ones are attracted to using certain things. Like, some of them love the damper pedal. Some of them doesn't even occur to them to use the damper pedal. Some of them only do the black keys. Some of them only do the white keys. So then just kind of observing what they naturally tend to do, and then expanding. Well, okay, this week I saw you use the damper pedal. Now let's try this week not using it, or using one of the other pedals, and see what those do, and it's so much fun. It's so much, it's loud and it's kind of, it can be a lot, but they love it. And it's just fun to keep that going. And they don't have to read yet or know half steps, or you can start integrating those little details in as they, as they have creative play at the instrument.
Yeah. And you can try it next, the 2 notes or 3 notes. Just give them a little bit more of constriction, and I think that forced them to be a little, even more creative, because now they, that's and then you can say, okay, now you have the whole piano again, and see what happens, because they're going to be even more creative this time. So
and let us not forget too that we can do, that is a wonderful concept and a principle to incorporate to our collaborative work with our students as well. Those of us who are trying to incorporate collaborative repertoire from a very young age for our students, asking them to compose on 3 notes or on a little thing that they know, a little variation, and working with each other, improvising on what one has played and the other imitates. Well, being that two pianos, four hands, or violin and piano. I have trios sometimes too, like So I that would be like you just gave me new ideas, Patricio.
You know, there was
I told you you're inspiring me.
one of the best experiences teaching for me, like as a teacher, was when I composed this piece for four hands for me and my student, and around by the end of the piece, I decided to leave it and like not unfinished. So there was an ending, but it was like a whole section where I was like, "This is yours. You're gonna have to do something here." So and we performed this piece at NJ Pack. It was 90% was composed by me, and then when it came to the part where he composed, I just stood up. I just stood up. I give him the piano. He did his own thing. It was very creative, very interesting, and it's kind of cool because he took some of the style of the piece too. So he was like also using the context and experience of the piece, right? So that's, again, he's using some of that, and he's using that, and then all of a sudden he does the Mozart thing, the trio, and he's like announcing that he's done, and then you just sit down and we've just finished. So it was great. It was a great experience.
I have a question. I know we're mostly talking about younger students, pre-college. I'm wondering, so in my experience when I was younger, I composed all the time. It was one of my favorite things to do. And when I started going to university, I pretty much stopped composing, partly because I was very busy and also partly because it was that atmosphere of like, oh, well, I'll never be as good as Beethoven, that kind of mindset. And it's only recently that I've started to teach my younger students how to improvise. And in that, I've been also teaching myself how to improvise. So I'm just wondering if you have any ideas or thoughts on like the role of the university and maybe how that can be changed.
Oh yeah. That's so sad. Yeah, because I experienced that too. With teachers saying that you're a performer, you're not a composer, and that I'm glad that that I did not listen to them. But yeah, that's not good. That's not good. But you know what? On the other side, I think performers do have an advantage because we understand music, we internalize music in a very powerful way. So we could turn that into compositions. I mean, I'm generalizing right here, but there's new music. There's some new music that is very computer-like, very difficult to perform, very difficult to reach for the public. And I think I mean, this is just a gut feeling. I don't have any research to back this, but I have a feeling that is because it comes from performers that don't have any idea of what it takes to perform or connect with audience members. So as performers, we do have that. We internalize, So since you focused on your performing during college, you internalize all of that music. Now it's better because now you have all of that already. So I think if you turn to composition, I think it's gonna be powerful.
That's true.
I would love to hear
that.
Yeah.
Patricio, thank you so much for joining us today. But to be honest, let me still finish that you need to have a still special talent and really be hardworking and unique person. As I know, you finished together at one time doctoral in piano performance and PhD degree in composition. I honestly admire that. And I hope we will see you more the next year. And thank you so much for such an interesting presentation.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure meeting everybody, and all the best. And I can't wait to see, all the other talks through this week. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Patricio.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Oh, Anna's left.
Good.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I just my computer gave up. My mic was like
And Darwin was talking to me at the end of the presentation about the 12 o'clock, so I didn't join this one until late. So then I was like, I didn't even see. So it's okay.
That was really interesting. And oh, the recording is going on. Are we keeping it?
I will stop. Thank you.